What's good, y'all? It's your boy Tony the Savant back with another one. Oh man, I'm ready. I'm excited to get into this one. I am. Let me do the intro. Shout out to the BCE, the SCE, my boy Mello, that's the press. Shout out to my boy Jeezy, that's the manager. Shout out to my cousin Hall, been supporting since day one. I love that. I love you, G. Let's get into it. So my boy Terence Crawford. I think it was on Gilly the Kids. Uh, Podcast, discussing his recent victory over Errol Spence and, all that kind of stuff, all the stuff that's been surrounding that. Shout out to Terence Crawford again for that classic virtuoso performance. But there's a part of it, there's a part in the interview what Gilly calls Jaron Ennis. And y'all know, if y'all don't know Jaron Boots Ennis, he's the young welterweight phenom that's coming up in the ranks. He's been calling out Errol Spence and Terence Crawford for a little while now. I give him at least 2 or 3 years, but it's been on record that Boots is just too. He's younger. He hasn't really earned his opportunity to challenge the likes of Errol Spence and Terence Crawford just yet. I'm of the impression that he's in the new generation. Like, you know what I mean? I always classify boxers in a 10 to 15 year generation gap. The life of a boxing career isn't very long. And so you gotta really soak it up while you're hot, while you are a cash cow. And so Jaron Boots Ennis, to me, being 20, I think he's like 25 years old, 25 or 26, he's going to be a part of the new generation, the next generation of guys that come up. And so, respectfully, him calling out Terence Crawford is just a stretch in itself. But Terence Crawford, accepts the phone call as Gilly puts Jaron Boots Ennis on the line. And very revealing, man. I think Terence Crawford could easily dismantle Boots now, just after this one little interaction that they've had with each other. I can see Bud whooping Boots, you know what I mean? Just for the simple fact that we said the same things about Errol Spence. He's bigger, he's this, he's that. And Terence Crawford went in there and nullified everything that made Errol Spence strong. Now, here's another thing I will say, that Boots is a little bit more diverse in his approach, his bag. Boots is not flat-footed like Spence. Boots uses angles. He's fast, and like I say, those things usually works in your advantage if you're facing anybody except Bud Crawford, because it seems to me Bud Crawford and Bo Mack. And Bo Mack said this. This is revealing. It just seems like they break you down long before they ever step in that ring with you. You know what I mean? For so long, like I said in my Bud Crawford and Errol Spence when I covered the fight, for so long I was under the impression that Terence Crawford was just going against inferior competition. No, what has been revealed to me is that Terence Crawford is fighting guys that's prepared, that's ready to fight for the most part. If you want to go 100% versus 100%, I'm not making excuses. But what it is that Terence Crawford is so many levels above these other guys, the likes of Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Joe Horn, all of these, formidable opponents he's had. He's so many levels above them that it does look like he's going against somebody that's inferior to him. When really, the guys that he's faced is the top of the class, at the time. Terrence had to go through the welterweight division, so he had to fight the Kell Brooks. There's another fight I was watching. Was it Phil Handy, something like that. He had to go through the division like everybody else. I'm trying to think of that fight I was watching the other day, man. Dang, with Bud Crawford when he first came into the welterweight division. He had to go through him, you know what I mean? He had to go through the welterweight division as well. But he's just so many levels above a lot of these fighters that it did seem like he was facing tomato cans, or at least lesser versions of themselves. Like I say, I was under that misconception. But listening to this exchange with him and Boots, you know what I mean, has really opened my eyes to the point that Boots might not be as ready as we think he is, y'all. We've all seen Boots go to work. We've all been impressed by his performances. I would say, I would concede and admit that right now. But I've also was equally impressed with Errol Spence, and Bud dismantled him and on a sweet science level, though. It wasn't like Bud was in there just He was much faster. He definitely was, and it revealed throughout the fight that he was much stronger as well. But what I seen from Bell from first round to the knockout was that Bud was prepared. Bud was essentially going in there on autopilot. He knew exactly what he was going to do, when he needed to do it, how he needed to do it. He was, he looked for everything that made Spence, quote unquote, gave him an advantage. He watched for it, he prepared for it defensively. So I think it's the same case with Boots. And like I was saying earlier, Bomac came out and he said that, man, we broke down Boots 2 or 3 years ago. Like at some fight that they seen Boots have in a hotel, you know what I mean? Like, they were saying that they broke him down way back then because they knew that one day, this is Bomac, I'm quoting him, but Bomac says one day he knew we was going to have to fight Boots Ennis, and so he started breaking him down years ago, and I used to think that Bomac would say that kind of stuff and then just be kind of cap, to just be him, being braggadocio, but really what I've noticed about Bomac is that Bomac is him and Bud Crawford, bro. Let me just say that this is the most impressive part about Bud and Bomac, and just the team in whole. I want to give a shout out to their team because I like watching. I think it's Benny the Boxer. I like watching his YouTube. Anyway, Bernie the Boxer. I'm sorry. I like watching him. Anyway, what I was going to say is that Boots and Boots and Bomac, they have such a detached, such a killer instinct, bro. Like understand, they have such a killer instinct that they can be so far removed emotionally from the situation. What I'm saying is that this is something that impressed me. The first thing that I've ever been impressed, not gonna say it like that, but the thing that I was most impressed about with Bud Crawford before him and Spence fought was that I remember watching a press conference between Bud and Sean Porter before their fight. And Sean Porter's kid was on the other side. Sean Porter talking his crap. I'm going to beat him up. This is what the game plan is. La, la, la. And Bud Crawford was on the other side just playing with his kid, making little peekaboo faces. And him and the kid having a good time. Bud not even listening to what Sean Porter is saying about him, his game plan and as far as going into the ring and all that kind of stuff. Now, you got to remember, too, bro. You have to remember that boxing is such a lonely sport. It's just you for the most part, you know what I mean? You do have your team motivating you and all that stuff, but Bud is the one that has to do all of the drills. He's the one that has to fulfill the camp. He's the one that got to do the push-ups, sit-ups, woo. Most times boxers, when they're in those last stages before the fight, they're so serious and uptight and so focused, you know what I mean, that they don't really be, for the most part, the only thing that really you can get a reaction out of them is if you set them off, you know what I mean? And that's when we see a lot of the times in the press conferences, they'll have their little, tidbits, their little cat fights, if you will. Because you can't fight for real, all that security, all that kind of, all the money on the line. Anyway, Bud was literally just sitting over there playing with Sean Porter's kid, and it was the fight, his biggest fight in the welterweight division at the time. You know what I mean? This was the fight that I remember specifically I called for, and everybody was waiting for. All right, finally, Bud is about to face a name. Because when we say Bud Crawford, the names on his list, it's not a long line. Yeah, he's faced Kell Brook, he's faced Amir Khan, he's faced all these guys, but before the Spence fight, like I said, you would just have said there was tomato cans at that time. But the one name that you had to consistently say that was on his resume outside of Errol Spence now is Sean Porter. Sean Porter was, top. He was the cream of the crop at one point in the welterweight division. So, nonetheless, before his biggest fight in his life, Bud Crawford was making time to play with his kids. So, and Bomac is the same way. Bomac is so detached that, everybody teases him for his weight and all that kind of stuff. I used to too. But now I got to shoot him some bail because they've shown that they are killers, man. And when Bomac says now that he's playing with Boots Ennis years ago, I'm not laughing. I'm actually nervous if I'm Boots. I'm nervous if I'm if I'm in Boots camp. Because now that we've seen what years of preparation does for Bomac and Bud Crawford specifically, do I want to go in the ring with a dude that has me figured out down to, the laces. You know what I mean? And, like Bud Crawford just figured, he just seemed like he knew how many laces was in Terrence, was in Errol Spence's glove. That's how prepared and broken down he had Errol Spence, you know what I'm saying, before that fight. But and another thing, Bud Crawford, Bowmac, all these B's is getting me. Bud Crawford's response to Boots was classic. He said, when you say you've been calling me out since 2018, when did you call me out specifically? And I'm gonna say this: how Boots Ennis answered the question was revealing, because he didn't really give a direct answer. You know what I'm saying? Now his dad, I can't think of his dad's name. His dad has been Boots' father, has been a lot more vocal about, you know, calling out Terence Crawford and all that kind of stuff. But Terence say, man, Boots, when did you send the contract? When did you call me out specifically? Now you've been calling out the quote unquote top guys. You know what I'm saying? Terence did give him that much. You know, he did shoot him some bill. He like, you have been calling out the top guys, but you ain't called out me, young man. And if you do want to call me out, then let's go. And Boots was just kind of, you know, not directly answering or responding to what Terence Crawford was saying. When Terence Crawford was coming right at him, he was at his front door. Like, you want to fight, young man? Let's go. I'll do it. Let's do it. You've seen what just happened to Spence, though. So you sure you want to? And I think that's the key. That's the key, though. Everybody that was probably talking crazy about Terence Crawford before, it's going to be some hesitancy, you know what I'm saying? Hesitancy before they want to finally, you know, set it in stone. Now, all the talk, all the build up, everybody can do that. I can do that. If me and Terence Crawford would have to fight each other, I can build it up. You know, I'll make it sound like it's going to be a good fight. But when it actually comes down to the fight, do I want to step in the ring with Terence Crawford? I mean, not right now. I'll probably, me personally, but I think all of these dudes, these professional fighters, are of the same, from the same ilk. You know what I mean? They're going to talk a good game. They're going to say, Tank Davis, I knock him out in 6 rounds. Tank, I'm sorry, bro. We ain't nobody in the world believe that. You probably believe that. Your camp is supposed to believe that. But I don't think anybody believes that, because Terence Crawford is the perfect fighter, defensively, offensively, preparing. And now we see his corner, his camp, you know, his trainer, Bomac, you know what I mean, is a boxing genius, you know what I mean? He may not look like one, but let Bomac study you long enough. I figure Bomac can figure out any boxer. If Bud and Floyd Mayweather had to fight right now, you gave Bomac time to prepare for Floyd, as much as I love my boy Money Mayweather, I'm taking Bud, bro. Bud has shown me something. He's very much so impressed me with his latest performance. So that's just my thoughts on it. Boots, you know, kind of reeling back now. You know, for years we heard Boots say he would fight Terence, he would fight, you know, Errol, all this kind of stuff, but now we're finding out behind the scenes, Boots he ain't really as forthcoming as he is in his interviews and all that kind of stuff. So y'all tell me what y'all think about that, man. It's your boy Tony the Savant. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the notification bell. You can be notified when I'm dropping content on this channel. I'm never gonna stop working, good Lord willing. Y'all the bosses. I'm just the guy that let it put in the work. I'm not a player. I'm not a coach. I'm a savant. Y'all be blessed.